You're watching another great interview on Audio Inc. Radio.
Hi, this is Ian Hill from Judas Priest, and you're listening to Anne Erickson, Audio Inc. Radio.
What's going on? It's Anne Erickson with Audio Inc. Radio, and I'm very happy to be here with metal royalty Ian Hill of Judas Priest. How are you?
Oh, fine, thank you, and thank you very much for that wonderful intro.
Well, yeah, it's true. And I mean, there's so much going on right now in the Judas Priest camp. You guys, of course, were just inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So what was that experience like?
Oh, it was surreal, you know. I had absolutely no idea of the scale of it. I thought it was going to be in a little room somewhere, you know. The next thing you know, you're in the auditorium, there's paying public there, all these VIPs and stars at the tables down the front. It was well, magnificent, really, you know, and it was great to be part of it. Really was.
Do you feel like the Rock Hall is starting to appreciate and recognize heavy metal and hard rock more than it used to?
I think it is. Maybe we've, you know, got our foot in the door now. I mean, there's Black Sabbath and Metallica and ourselves now. Maybe there's room for others, you know. There's a whole list of metal bands out there who are worthy, you know, of being members of the Hall of Fame. But we'll have to wait and see, you know.
Do you have one memory from the night that really stands out above all others?
Yeah, you know, it was just full on all the time. Like from the day before, it was rehearsals. And that was so many people walking around doing so many different things. It looks like they didn't know what they were doing, or, you know, not doing much at all. But they did. Everybody had their own job, and just watching all this like going on. And it all comes together at the end. Like, suddenly somebody says, okay, go. And there you are, and everything works, and it's great. And the same applied really on the day of the show. There's a lovely piece of like isolation, which is the dressing room. And you're there just enough time to put your stage clothes on, because all the rest of the time you're on a table in front of the stage and people are filming you all the time, you know, which is great. And like I say, it was full on for a couple of days there, you know. And I was amazed that everything ran to schedule. There were no mistakes. Nobody messed up. And it was, you know, it was just great to be a part of it all, you know. We were all skeptical. And I won't lie to you. We were skeptical about it all, whether to accept it or not to start with. But like I said, in my speech, really, I mean, it was all off the top of my head. I realised that when you start, you rebel against the establishment. You want to do everything differently. And then after all these years, you realise that you are the establishment, you know, and to be admitted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is the ultimate establishment. I mean, it's a great honour, you know, and we were also, you know, thrilled to be a part of it all.
Well, that's even better to hear that you guys went in a little skeptical and then came out saying, "Wow, this was a great experience."
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was. At the end of the day, it was. It really was a great experience, you know, the whole thing. Oh, no spare time, full on, you know. You didn't have time to catch your breath, really.
Well, Judas Priest, you guys, of course, are on this massive 50th anniversary tour, and it's amazing you guys have been rocking it for that long. I can't believe it. What does it mean to you to know that Judas Priest, you guys have been strong and together for 50 years?
I know. I mean, when we started out in the late 60s, the idea of someone our age, you know, we're in our 70s now, Rob and myself and Glenn, to still be performing, you know, after all that time, didn't really exist. I mean, even the old crooners, the Bill Crosbys and the Sinatras, they were in their sort of 50s and 60s. You know, the rock and rollers were in the 40s and the 50s. You know, and our contemporaries were all in their 30s and the 40s. You know, and like the concept of somebody doing it at our age just didn't exist. And it's something you don't feel. I mean, I don't feel my age. I really don't. I'm up here. I'm probably still 12 years old. But it never hits you unless somebody points it out to you. You know what I mean? You've been at it for 50 years. And these milestones keep coming up with albums. It's been 30 years for this and 40 years for that. And then you do realise, geez, yeah, we have been really doing it for that amount of time. It doesn't seem that long. But it's just a blessing still to be here, you know, being able to do it.
Yeah, and you mentioned those albums that hit different anniversaries. What do you think it is about Judas Priest, like your catalog, that still resonates with fans so many decades later?
I think it's with each album and each tour, we've always tried to take a step forward, and yeah, I mean, you never stop learning. We're still learning now, you know, and to try and make it better than the last one, not just the same, but try and move on and make it better and better. And I think it's definitely what's kept the band current and relevant in today's music world. And I think people can probably recognise that in the progression of the records from the first one right the way through to Firepower. You know, there's been that progression after every one. And maybe that's what makes people appreciate the music, you know.
So how is Richie Faulkner doing? I know that really scary incident at Louder Than Life with his heart, and how is he doing now on the road?
He's fortunately made a complete recovery, but it was touch and go there for a while, you know. Never is there a lucky time to have heart trouble. But at that particular spot and that particular moment in time, it was a festival for a start. So there's always paramedics at a festival. And it was the last chord of the last song, the last coda. And he saw him grab his chest. And I ran around after the end of the set. Paramedics were already there. They'd already got a mask on him. And he came back to the dressing room after that. You know, I said, "I'm fine. I'm going to go and get changed." And the paramedic said, "You really, really need to go to hospital and get this sorted out." His partner was there at the time because he only lives 100 or so miles away. We were flying on to Denver into a day off that night, and he was going to go home with his wife, spend the night with his family, and flying out the next couple of days, you know. So, and he almost got in the car and drove off. And if he'd have done that, he wouldn't have lasted the journey, you know. But the great thing was the paramedics insisted that he went to hospital, and so did our tour manager with expletives. He said, "You're not going anywhere unless you go and get in that ambulance," sort of thing. And they took him straight to a dedicated heart hospital, which is just 4 miles away. And the surgeon was there. You know, everything just lined up. We went off to the airport, you know, waved him goodbye. I said, "We'll see you in Denver in a couple of days," you know, didn't know what was wrong. And of course, when we landed, everybody's phone lit up and we found out what had happened, you know. And it really did. We were all shocked, absolutely blown away. I mean, he's the youngest member of the band for a start. He's outwardly fit, the fittest bloke, you know, he's jumping here, there and everywhere. And for it to happen to him, you know, out of all the people who have been involved with the band and the crew, for it to happen to him, it was the biggest shock of all, you know. But obviously he's now made a full recovery and he's back to normal, or as normal as any of us get. And he's putting on great performances again, you know.
It's great to see him back out there with Judas Priest. He's an amazing guitarist, and I think he's a really great addition to the band.
Oh, he's an immense talent, yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right there.
Tell me, what is next for Judas Priest? I know that you guys are working on a follow-up to Firepower, which everyone is super excited about. So what can you tell us?
Yeah, well, we're finishing the USA leg of this tour about 2 weeks' time. Then we're heading to South America and Mexico for another 2 or 3 weeks. And then back home for Christmas. But we've been working on an album over the last couple of years. I mean, with COVID, it's been difficult. People have been stranded everywhere. You know, half of us are in America, half of us are in Britain. So it's just been a bit of a protracted occasion. But we've got everything together now, pretty much, except the vocals. Just the vocals to go down. Always the last thing to go on, obviously. You know, get all the music out of the way. Maybe a bit of production pieces, a bit of fairy dust on the top, and then it's ready to go. When it'll be released, we don't know yet. We've got some work options coming up, live work options coming up next year. One of which is a tour with Ozzy in Europe. And there's one or two other things that might be happening, which we'll obviously have to get out of the way first before we can then release the album and get into something new. Because whatever we do next year will be the tail end of what we're doing now. So it'll probably be towards the end of next year, maybe even 24, before it's actually on the shelf. But it's nearly done, nearly finished. It's exciting.
How would you describe the musical direction of the new stuff?
Again, it's a step forward from Firepower. Maybe a little bit more complicated than Firepower, but that's the direction we're going in at the moment. So I'm not going to tell you anymore. I'll have to kill you.
I tried. Awesome. So how would you describe the state of heavy metal music today? Do you think that metal is in a good place?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of up and coming bands, and I think none of them are going to reach the peak until the likes of ourselves and Iron Maiden and Deep Purple, until we're all out of the way, until we're all finished. Then other bands are going to start coming up and taking the mantle, if you know what I mean. And but I think it's in a good place. I mean, the thing that surprises me, and it has done for years now, the amount of young faces you see in our audiences. Obviously, there's people our age and even older that still come to see the shows, but there's a hell of a lot of sort of parent and daughter or son there, and they're all getting into it. So I think it's there's a great deal of hope there. I think there's a lot of raw material out there for it to continue for a long time into the future.
That's great. Yeah, and I've taken my mom to a Judas Priest show, so I'm right there with you. We loved it. We had a lot of fun. You mentioned briefly Iron Maiden, and actually the last time that I spoke with you, I asked, is there a band that you think would be really cool to tour with? And you mentioned maybe Iron Maiden, which do you still have any interest in maybe touring with them one day?
It's a great concept. I mean, the trouble with Iron Maiden and ourselves is we're always busy, always doing something, and try and get in a gap there where we're both doing nothing so we can do something together is more difficult than you think. But yes, it would be a great tour, a great bill. Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, and maybe one or even two others. It'd be a great bill, and you live in hope that it'll happen one of these days. But you never know. The stars might line up again.
Maybe. My fingers are crossed. I think that would be great. Well, Ian Hill, it's been awesome to have you on the show. Congrats on 50 years of Judas Priest, and cannot wait to hear the new record.
Okay, thanks, Anne. It's been a pleasure.